Welcome to Hey Soul Sista, the podcast for women ready to embrace greater joy, freedom, and a soulful life. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe, follow, like, and share. Hey, Nick, so great to have you back on Hey Soul Sista again.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's so lovely to be here, Mel.
I loved our first episode.
Me too.
So much.
Yeah.
So much good stuff there. And I thought we actually didn't get around to talking too much about the breath and somatic bodywork that you specialize in. So I was like, I need to get Nick back again. So today we're talking about healing and doing the inner work with the breath and body, which some people will have heard that. But I realize other people are probably like, what the hell are they talking about?
Yeah.
Healing with the breath and body.
Yeah, it's a big topic, and it's become quite a newly branded topic, I think, breathwork, whereas breathwork has been something that's been an ancient practice in so many, different communities and different, lineages since the dawn of time, right? And breathing itself, I mean, we breathe every single day. We come into this world, we breathe, we leave this world with a breath. So it's interesting that, suddenly everyone feels like they're talking about breathwork.
Yes.
But when I was doing my yoga teacher training when I was 20, I think I was 22, something, pranayama was breathwork, but it just didn't have as cool a name, I think.
Pranayama. Does sound a bit fancy.
It means the restraint of energy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So is that what the breathwork is around?
Yeah.
The restraint of energy.
Well, if you think about breathwork, and that a lot of people will have done breathwork in some kind of a yoga class or a Pilates class or something, and that's what we call mind-based breathwork, and that's when you sort of might be breathing in for 4, holding for 4, breathing out for 4, holding for 4. So in terms of energy, you're allowing energy to flow, and then you're, containing it. So so it's changing the way the energy is moving in the body, and that can change the way your blood flow operates, your brain operates. So the breathwork has been breathwork, I think, is an easier way of people to understand pranayama, and it's gained a lot of traction. If you look at Instagram, I mean, my Instagram's full of it. Not everyone's might be. But it's changing the way people are able to operate and the way that they're able to sort of heal themselves from different situations and things that have been going on in their lives.
Well, certainly I think I first heard the term breathwork about 8 years ago. Somebody said to me that they had studied breathwork. They were now a breathworker, and they were offering their services to Got You Back Sister and some of the women that we help there. And I'd never really heard of breathwork, and I didn't really know what it was, but certainly I would say I've heard more and more about it over the years.
Yeah.
So you are actually a high school teacher, English teacher.
Yes.
You then went and did a master's in counselling.
Yes.
And you're now a qualified breathworker.
Yes.
Psychotherapist.
Yes.
Yogi.
Yes. And also do some work with Brave Spaces, so holding some retreats and coaching, things like that.
So you're across a whole range of healing and healing methods, would you say?
Yeah. I really like supporting people and walking alongside them. And it was actually whilst I was teaching at Green School in Bali that kids just kept coming up to me and going, Ibu Nicola, because that's what they call you as a teacher. Can I just talk to you rather than, be a teacher? Can I just talk to you about something? And I was like, oh, I really like this. I really like just listening to people and hearing what's going on and seeing how we can support them to move forward through what they're going through. And that led me to my Masters of Counselling.
Nick, you're really good at it.
Thanks, Mel.
And I know that because I spent 3 to 4 months actually doing breath work and talk work. So this is the talk work, like the psychotherapy.
Yeah, and we did some energy. Yeah, talk therapy.
A whole lot of stuff.
It's all a bit hybrid, right? Isn't it? Yeah, and it works together.
I love, and people would say to me, what happens, what goes on? And my response is, I have no idea, but it's great. Something happens. Yeah. Something happens and it's amazing. Yeah. And I had lots of realizations, and I guess that's the inner work, right? Having lots of realizations about myself, about life, soul, relationships, communication, so many great realizations and awarenesses. And I still didn't really know what was going on, but I loved it. I knew that I was breathing. I knew you were doing energy work, and I knew that we talked a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And you were so wonderful and supportive. You were really great at the listening, but then also asking the questions.
You keep saying that.
Asking the questions that I have okay, yeah. Now it's really making me look deeply.
Yeah, and you were connecting dots, and those dots were becoming deeper and deeper, right?
Yeah.
And I remember seeing your face going, oh my gosh, that all makes sense. Yeah.
It all makes sense now.
Yeah.
Which
is so beautiful.
It's like the jigsaw puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
It's like finding the extra piece. And all of a sudden you see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful.
You were there and committed to doing. And I think that's also makes so much. You know, they say in therapy that 70% of the efficacy is in the therapeutic relationship. And I think that's such an incredibly large value within the whole process. But you came to it going, I don't necessarily know exactly where I need to get to, but I'm willing and open to processing through it. And I think that's where the magic is.
It doesn't feel good to have negative thoughts, to have negative feelings, to feel sadness, anger, confusion, jealousy, fear. It doesn't feel good. And I guess for myself, and I'm sure there would be other people that are similar, I just know I didn't want to feel that way anymore. I wanted to feel joyful. I wanted to feel peaceful. And I kind of had reached that point of going, I need help with that. And there's people out there that are way smarter and wiser than me that can help me get there because I'm just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think you've been really wonderful with that.
Thank you. I think we're all trying to figure it out.
Totally.
And sometimes we just need to find somebody to support us in that moment.
Yeah.
And to walk alongside.
So in saying that, from your perspective, why do so many of us need healing?
Like,
what are some of the common wounds, I guess, or unmet needs that show up again and again in people?
I mean, the three core beliefs that we're all carrying in some way are I am unlovable, I am unworthy, or I'm helpless. And there's another one that we might also add to that is I'll be betrayed. And
can I just really jump in? That was a big thing for me. I'll be betrayed.
Yeah. And so when we've learnt along the way when we were younger, one of those things was something that we're carrying with us, right? And some of us will say that means I'm broken or that there's an unmet need or there's something that's, faulty or something inside of me. I don't like to think of anyone as broken, but that we need to retrieve that belief and shift that, transmute that, transform that from our adult self, because that little child within us is still holding that and she or he doesn't need to carry that anymore with them. So if we break it down, they're the sort of four basic unmet needs and they're not true, but they feel so real. And then there's so many different sort of iterations of presentations that people will come to.
So like anxiety
or feeling depressed or feeling stuck in their life or feeling grief. I suppose they're the major ones. Helpless, yeah, relationship issues. That's a big one, isn't it? Because relationships show us so much about ourselves and what we don't want in our life or what we maybe have grown out of. So I think relationships are huge ones. I also work with adolescents, so it can be stuff around parents or friendships, again, relationship, people deciding that they want something more in their life and they don't know how to work that out. Yeah, that feeling of stuck or I want something different and I don't know what's my purpose, what's the meaning. So there can be really big existential questions as well. Yeah.
What role does our childhood experiences play in our relationships and patterns of behaviour?
So the way I see it, because I've been trained in internal family systems therapy, IFS, some people might have heard of it. The idea is that we're always being affected by our childhood experiences, and they can be experiences that are really significant and huge and traumatic, or they can be really seemingly insignificant. like being told to be quiet or being told to be good. And those moments are when our childhood self has formed certain beliefs and certain ways of being, and they've created some protectors around them to decide how they're going to live and move in the world. And then, you know, people talk about attachment theory and how we're attached either anxiously or, you know, avoidantly or disorganized anxious attachment or a secure attachment to our parents. So in IFS, we would sort of just work with the anxious part or the avoidant part, and, you know, how have those parts taken some controls to protect the younger ones in the system. So I believe so much comes from our childhood and our childhood experiences and how we've processed or not processed them.
So we have these experiences that impact us later in life, and we may have experienced trauma. I understand you can say the big T trauma or the little T trauma, so the big traumas or smaller traumas that may add up to a larger trauma, or different experiences that then play out later on in life.
Yeah, and you did also ask me, how does that affect our relationships?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's a great question. The way that we have been met in our childhood, you know, by somebody listening to us, hearing us, validating us, or invalidating, not hearing, ignoring, dismissing, is going to affect the way that we move in and out of relationships, is going to affect the way that we trust in a relationship or don't trust, or the way that we present ourselves, you know, to make myself feel like I'm going to be liked or I'm going to be loved or I'm going to be looked after if I do X, Y, and Z. So I think that we often see those relationships play out in the same way that we had learnt to relate to people as a child. And there's a lot of coping strategies that children learn, and then those things are carried out and played out in our relationships as we get older, until we can break those patterns and acknowledge them and see that that's a younger part of me doing that, or my protectors are helping that younger part of me relate to that person, and I can take over as an adult now and say, I don't need to be acting in that way, or do I need that validation to feel worthy?
Can you give an example?
So just say my mother always told me I was really good. You know, you're such a good girl. You're so responsible. You're so helpful. You're so good. So I started to, and I'm using myself as an example for that. I started to form this belief that if I was good, I was loved. And it's not my mother's fault. It's just the way that she had spoken at that time, and a lot of people's parents spoke at that time. And I formed the belief that if I wasn't good, I wasn't loved, or I was faulty. So therefore, in all sorts of relationships, so even with a boss, I would make sure that I was good and I was polite and I was doing everything in the right way, because I knew that then I would be loved and validated. And same with in friendships, I was more of a chameleon, and I could work with different groups of people and always sort of fit in and mold myself to however they wanted me to be, so that I was accepted and loved and worthy. Until I've realized in my 40s, I don't have to do that all the time. But it's a huge unlearning.
So about 2 years ago, I was attending a retreat up in the Byron hinterland. And on the first day, the facilitator, who was Kathy Berg, she was talking to us about something called the 6 gates of grief. And I can't remember what they all are, but feel free to look it up, anybody who's listening, if you're interested, the 6 gates of grief. But she asked a question of us, which blew me away and caused me to sob most of the day, which is because I'm not a crier. And the question she asked was, when we were growing up, where did we not receive love?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other question was, how did that change you? And for me, I had this whole epiphany, because I realized that I received love when I achieved.
Yeah. Okay.
When I did well at school. And I was incentivized to do well at school. And I like doing well. But I received love when I did well at school. I did not receive love when I did not do well at school. I would get in trouble.
Uh-huh.
And so how did that change me? Was that I became an achiever. I became a pusher and a striver. So when I reflected back on that, I did well at uni. I always tried really hard in my career. When I worked in corporate, the Got You Back Sister, I pushed and I strived and I went so hard. And we achieved because I was like, I have to achieve.
Yeah.
But at the cost of burnout.
Right. So it served you up until a certain point.
Up until a certain point of like just total burnout. Yeah.
And then what did it feel like when you were in burnout? What did that achieving part of you feel like?
Oh, it's a real conflict because it's exhausting. But I just remember feeling like I can't do this anymore. The striving and the pushing and pushing so hard because I was pushing really hard to make it successful.
Yeah.
And it is successful. It's done very well, but at my own personal cost. And so it's very hard reprogramming that, right? Yeah. To go, it's okay to not achieve.
It's a really hard reprogramming. And especially those parts of us that we call them managers because they've done so well managing to get us through to a certain point until our system starts going, hang on a second, this doesn't feel aligned. I don't feel like I have to do this anymore. And those parts are like, but hang on, that's the only way we get the love.
Yeah.
And that's when we start reparenting ourselves and going, it's okay. I love you. Even if you don't have to go.
Yeah. It's okay. And you're still worthy, loved and valuable if you're not pushing and striving. Like that's hard. That's a hard reprogramming. Yeah. When you've been programmed that you have to push hard, go, attack with my dad. And my dad's lovely, but my dad would say to us, attack with gusto.
Oh, yeah. And so many times those parental mottos sit with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Attack with gusto. So you got to attack and it has to be with gusto.
Yeah. Attack with gusto.
You can't approach anything peacefully.
Well, it's funny because my siblings, we joke, we laugh with each other about that we've all got this inner drive, right? We've all got this inner thing to succeed. And our sister Kate moved to Germany and we're like, next thing, Kate's there. She's arrived. She's enrolled in German school. She's got a job teaching ballet. Oh, now she's an international dance adjudicator and is being sent around the world to adjudicate dance competitions.
Yeah.
Because that was really instilled in us was achieve. So I go, it's been a very interesting time of reprogramming to go, it's okay to just sit still and be.
Yeah. And that's what goes back to what we were talking about in our last episode, in the material world and the shoulds. I've got to keep going to live up to expectations.
The expectations that have been set.
Yeah. And what happens if I stop and I'm just myself? Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Come back to my breath.
Yeah, well, and that leads us to the next question. So many a person, everybody has wounds, has patterns, has something. There are some really sunny people that appear to have very little wounds, emotional wounds in life. I don't know.
I think everybody has gone through, I mean, no one's been in a cotton wool bubble. And if you were in a cotton wool bubble your whole life, you'd also have many wounds because you wouldn't have had many connections and things like that. Yeah. So I think that everyone's got their things. Everyone's got a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when people come to you for the conscious, connected breath work, how does all of that work? Because I've been doing it. I love it. I feel I've gone through this amazing transformation and reprogramming. I'm in. But I still don't really understand how it works.
Yeah. Well, it's an incredibly simple process, as you know, because you lie down, you relax your body, you connect your breath, and something happens.
You play some beautiful music.
And when we connect the breath, so the inhale begins to meet the exhale and the exhale begins to meet the inhale. And I'll just say to listeners, this is not something for you to do on your own. It's really important, especially because you do this for an hour and 15 minutes. It's something to do with the facilitator or in a group first. So connecting the breath in that way, what it does is it activates the sympathetic nervous system in a safe and supported way. So I'm going to probably jump around a little bit here, but in our life, like when we're talking about those sort of wounds or those, patterns of behavior or things that have interrupted patterns in our systems, like being told to be quiet or, a traumatic event like a big fall or something like that, it's stored in our body, right? So something happens and there's a fight, flight or freeze moment for the nervous system. So we're in a moment of danger and our system responds to that in a particular way. When we're carrying around a lot of those interrupted patterns, we might in our life, especially if we've sort of get stuck in that fight or flight mode, things that are happening like traffic, which is not very, highly emotionally charged, might send us over the top. Children crying might send us over the top. So there's ways that our nervous system's responding that it doesn't actually match the stimulus. So in the conscious connected breathwork, what we're doing is we're activating the sympathetic, so the fight-flight response, but in a way that it knows that it's safe to go up. And then as we drop the connected breath, we come back down through the parasympathetic. So what we're doing is we're showing your nervous system that it can travel up and be activated, and it can come back down and complete a process. So in the same way, you'll see a bird sort of fly into a window and it drops to the floor and it freezes for a moment and then it shakes itself off. And if you don't touch it, it'll take its time. It will slowly move through the processing that it's had this trauma. It's come through, it's processed it in its body, and it can fly away if it's not injured. If we went over and tried to help it, it might interrupt that pattern, it might shock it. There's lots of different iterations that could happen. So the way that the conscious connected breathwork works is that in that space, your nervous system has shown a new way of moving through a stimulus to a completion. And so you come out, and yes, at the top here, you might have had some visuals, or you might have had some people come into your, experience. And I've had people say, somebody who's died has come and spoken to me there, because you reach a non-ordinary state of consciousness. So the veil between this world and the other worlds might be thinner. But also you're able to access the hippocampus, where we're processing memories and emotions. So a lot can happen within that journey, but ultimately it's that you start here and you complete it here, and your nervous system has gone through that journey and feels like, right, that's how it feels to go up and come down. And in our everyday life, we don't always get to complete that process.
Well, some people just go up, up, up.
Yes.
Others go down, down, down.
Yes. And that's what we might call the window of tolerance. And so a lot of people's window of tolerance is about this thin. And so they're sitting in fight or flight all the time, hypervigilance, or in a collapsed state. And the conscious connected breathwork can help open and widen that window of tolerance, so that something like someone cutting you off in the traffic is just a stimulus of 1 out of 10. It's not matched with a reaction of 8 out of 10.
It's not road rage.
It's not road rage.
We don't want road rage.
But if someone's road raging, their window of tolerance might be really thin, and they might just have so much on their plate and not able to process a lot through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you share any stories of how breathwork has helped someone transform a long-held pattern or belief?
When I started conscious connected breathwork, I was experiencing quite a lot of anxiety in my own life, quite a lot of stress. And the more that I was able to do each session, the more that I found myself able to have these conversations in my workplace that I wasn't able to have, that I was quite fearful of. And I was definitely finding myself in a place of more fear than love in some more intimidating spaces. And the more that I was doing the breath work, the more I was finding that my capacity to move into conversations that were intimidating was so much broader. And I was finding my level of anxiety just constantly reduce, to the point that I would say that I hardly have anxiety now. And anxiety is something that's run in my family. So I think that's one example.
Yeah. And so what are some of the most common shifts or breakthroughs that you witness when people begin the breathwork practice?
One of the most common shifts is people coming back to their body or finding their body for the first time. So we can work around, it's so funny because we're walking around in these bodies and yet somehow so disconnected from them. And so much of our emotion, so many stories, so many of our history is stored in our body.
Well, that's something you say.
Yeah.
Is that the body holds everything.
Yeah.
And actually, isn't there a book that says
the body keeps the score?
The body keeps the score.
Yeah.
So tell us about that, because that's like the basis of the somatic work.
Yeah. So the idea is that when we were talking about the nervous system before, when the nervous system reacts to a situation, big T trauma, small t trauma, any kind of a situation, the nervous system has kind of coded a response in the body. So the body is then constantly looking out for danger.
Because we become anxious, we feel it, we feel sick, or our pulse races.
Yeah, that's all of those natural responses in the body, which are so helpful if we are running from danger, but we're not always running from danger, but our body is constantly scanning for it. So, coming back to our body and our nervous system and being able to regulate our nervous system is, I think, the place that we need to start with everything. And through the psychotherapy with IFS, it is quite somatic in the way that it's led. It's feeling the parts in the body. And then, of course, the breath work is somatic because it's working with the body. So I'll just follow the way somebody's body is moving. And often people will want to move their body in a particular way in a breathwork journey, and I'll say, just follow that movement. And they'll say, wow, that was really incredible. I just felt suddenly my whole right arm come alive, and I hadn't felt that before. And without trying to interpret that, it's just getting that felt sense back into the body, because that's when we can find ourselves more grounded, regulated, and being able to process the stuff that hasn't been processed. And then the way that we respond to things out in the world is, if we're from our body and we're grounded in our body, we're responding from a space of capacity.
So when we were doing some work and you were asking me questions and I would visualize, I think at one point you were getting me to visualize my younger self and how I was feeling at that time. And you were saying to me, where is that in your body? And I think it was in my chest.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So I might say, where are you feeling that anxiety? And often people will point to their chest, or anger, they might point to their chest. And then we start befriending that feeling. What does that feel like? What does it look like? What is it? How big is it? What sort of density is it? And then because we often want to push away those feelings. You said in the beginning, I didn't like negative feelings. I didn't like negative thoughts.
Absolutely. It feels awful to feel angry.
Yeah. And so the more we push it, the more we resist, the more it persists. Yeah, where our attention goes, our energy flows, all of those beautiful rhymes that have so much wisdom in them. If we push away and avoid, it's going to show up somewhere else. So it's going to show up in our body as well.
Michael Singer says that. He says that. He's like, when you try and suppress an emotion or a thought or a feeling, that it will just bubble up somewhere else, but it will probably bubble up as an explosion.
Yeah. Right. And it might be like level 3 out of 10, but it might bubble up at level 7 out of 10 because you're not addressing it. So the IFS work will ask you to look at that emotion and really make space for it. And when we do that, we find, the part just wants to be acknowledged. Like a child just wants to be acknowledged. They're having a tantrum. They don't want you to go away, get out of here. They're like, okay, just sit next to them.
So I'm going to ask you a question because I hear what you're saying with all of that. But then what do we do when we also hear people say, and I know I say it, if having a negative feeling, just change the thought.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, right?
Just reframe the thought.
Wayne Dyer would talk about that. Change your thoughts, change your feelings.
Yeah. So just put a positive thought in front of the negative thought.
Yeah.
It hasn't really, for me, hasn't worked that easily. I think there are some, it depends on how emotionally charged that thought is and how much of a spiraling thought that is and how much you've given it some, traction. If it's a low emotional charge, maybe you can put that in front of it and move on. But I think that if we notice and name the thought and notice that we are not the thought, then we can immediately create some distance, right? And when we're with the parts all just want to be, they just want to be noticed, and they actually all think they're helping us. So the anger can be a really helpful emotion. It's like, I don't think this is fair and I'm not being heard. And so let's listen to that and let's give it some of that space to hear why it's doing that and where it came from. And there might be a younger part underneath it, like a 5-year-old who wasn't listened to. And so now's the time for you to listen to her and see what she needed that she didn't get when she was 5. Yeah. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
It makes sense because I've actually done that process with you.
Yes. Yeah, you have. And so I think that just reframing a thought every time can be really hard. And I get a lot of clients say, I've just been told to make a negative thought positive, and I don't think it's that easy. Yeah.
So how does the somatic therapy help us release stored tension, trauma and emotion?
So when we're moving through a breathwork journey, and we call it a journey because it moves on this bell curve, I keep drawing in the air. the nervous system can, change its temperature, hot and cold. It can shake, it can move, and all of that is allowing release of tension in the physical body.
Ah, I get that.
Yeah.
Like you might twitch.
Yeah. There's twitches. Sometimes there's absolute movement. Like sometimes people just want to shake. Sometimes they want to move one part of their body, and we just allow it. And that shakes out, releases the tension out. If someone can become quite hot and then quite cold, and that's also part of releasing that tension. A lot of times people cry, and that can be releasing. And sometimes people release anger. So just a big scream or a big shout or a big bellow, and that can release as well.
So in your experience, what happens when we ignore the signals and the wisdoms of the body for too long?
I think that exactly what you said before. They get stored up and they come out in some other way. I also
They bubble up in an explosion.
And they can come out in ways that don't make sense, that seem irrational, that are addressed at the wrong people.
And then you're really going into therapy. I did that. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
How did I do that?
Well, they might even come out as a chronic pain or maybe an illness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that we need to lean in to those uncomfortable emotions.
Yeah.
And find ways to allow them to release. You look very pensive, Mel. It looks like you're thinking of a story.
I was just thinking about a time years ago when I was suppressing something, and also I was being told to suppress it, a feeling. And I did suppress it. And then one day I'd had a couple of wines and lost my shit.
Right. So that was a release, right? To have a couple of wines allowed a bit of a numbing of that, and then it came out.
But I lost my shit.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And it was something I was really not proud of.
Yeah.
I was not proud of that at all. And so then I had to go and do the whole therapy work about getting over losing my shit. But which, of course, there's something underneath, right?
Yeah. So if you could rewind, what would you have done differently?
I probably would have sat down to actually talk through the issue initially without getting it to the point of feeling suppressed and then losing my shit, because then it's a lot harder to come back from, right?
Yeah.
A lot harder to come back from the explosion.
And then maybe that was also part of your soul's experience on this earth.
Maybe.
Right? To go through that and to learn from that, because it sounds like you really acknowledged it and learned from it. And it's not a comfortable thing to do, lose your shit.
Oh, it's not.
I'm sure we've all done it.
Oh, do you know what? Absolutely. And some people do it all the time because that's what they know, right?
And that becomes their outlet or their release.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you've been programmed to be the good girl, to lose your shit, a lot of guilt and shame comes with that.
Yeah, that's it. And it's the guilt and shame that we've then put down, and we have to then, bring that one up and look at that and give that some love and care and attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the things.
All the things.
Oh, my Lord. So then how does the psychotherapy work in with that? Because psychotherapy is like talk therapy, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's the internal family systems.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I often work with clients with a little bit of that parts work and then moving into the breath work. So I think that the IFS and the breath work can work really well together, because the IFS is asking people to get in contact with their body. Like, where are the parts in your body? How are they stored in your body? What does it feel like? And then so unraveling some of those layers that they've been carrying with them and getting to what we call exiled or childlike parts, and then taking that through into the breath to integrate it, and then people might have a connection with their younger self or that part of them that feels like, wow, that was a really beautiful process of bringing that part up to the surface, befriending it, and then integrating it through in the breath.
So when someone reaches out to you for psychotherapy or breath work, where does that usually start?
It usually starts with an initial session of, getting a history, getting a bit of an understanding of where they're at, what's a presenting issue for them that they are aware of, how is that, impacting their life, and how is that sort of impacting them from getting to where they'd like to be. And then if they're wanting to do breathwork, then we get straight into a breathwork session. And if they're wanting to do psychotherapy, then we might spend the whole session on, gathering that history and the different people in their lives and their childhood experiences. And in breathwork, it's more of an oscillation.
Yeah. So in your view, how are the breathwork and somatic therapy pathways to connecting with our soul and our higher self?
Ooh, big questions.
Yeah. Because our last episode that we recorded was around soul and the higher self.
Yeah.
So how does the breathwork and somatic therapy help us connect with our soul and our higher self?
Well, as I said, I think in the last episode, is that the breath is it's our entry point. It's the spirit within us. It's our entrance to be animated into the world and de-animated from the world. So the breath connects us to, I think, from this body to the higher self. And if you sit with your breath, just close your eyes and sit with your breath, there will be a shift, right? You'll start feeling something different in your body. You'll feel a stillness. If you sit with your breath and you just keep extending your exhales, you'll notice that there is a shift. And it doesn't you don't have to judge what kind of shift it is. So in just watching your breath, you become connected to your higher self, I believe. And that's in my personal experience. And then watching people in their breathwork experiences, so many people have connected to things that were otherworldly in their journeys that we can't explain.
Have you ever had any of the little spooky spiritual experiences when you've been undertaking breathwork yourself?
Yes. I've been in what it feels like a place of pure love, pure bliss, where it feels like everything makes sense and I'm not this body and I'm not this mind and I'm just part of the vibrational energy of everything. And I've had that experience quite a few times. When I'm in that, it's just I'm witnessing myself, witnessing the experience of being in a state of absolute bliss and just going, this is it. This is actually what it is to be a soul. This is what it is to be my true self. And it's one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had in my life. And it doesn't feel, it's so not of this world, and yet it is at the same time. Yeah, so that's my experience with that transcendent feeling of the breathwork.
And interesting you describe it like that, because I've listened to a number of podcasts of people who have had near-death experiences, and they actually talk about dying or being near death and going over to the other side, to the spiritual realm, and what they experience or feel is what you just said. Bliss.
Yeah.
Love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it comes. I mean, I've listened to many as well, Mel. I find it fascinating and read many books on the same topic. And I do believe it always comes back to we are love. And that's the pure essence of any of us. And if we come from our space of our heart, that's when we're living in alignment, we're living in integrity, living from our higher self or our soul's purpose. And if everything is love, then that's what it feels like to be our truest sense of our true nature. And I think that the breath can take us back to that space, which is where we all came from.
The breathwork.
Yeah.
I love that. And I really hope if you're listening to this episode and you're curious, reach out to Nick.
Please do.
Yeah, because I have loved the experience and I've had the glimpses of the love. And also from meditations that you have sent me, and it's just wonderful and it changes you. What I have found is doing that regularly, it really does change you. I have always been a highly anxious person who would worry a lot. As a little girl, I would vomit from anxiety. And the last 9 years, I have had a lot of anxious moments because of meeting other people's expectations and worrying about making sure everybody's okay, and in terms of the charity, making sure everybody's okay and everything's going okay and everything that goes with that. And I have never been more at peace.
Yeah, right.
This year since undertaking the breathwork therapy with you.
Wow.
With some psychotherapy thrown in.
Mel, that's really beautiful. That's a beautiful reflection.
Yeah. And that's why I want people to know about it.
Yeah.
Right? Because I want people, if they are feeling the way that I did, or any other experiences where maybe they're not living their best joyful, peaceful life, I just know the difference that it's made to my life, and I want other people to experience that.
Absolutely. And when you experience it, you can't not remember that, right? You can't forget it. So
Absolutely.
when you know that you are that pure love, you know that everybody is as well.
Yep. So if you could offer one message to listeners today about the relationship between healing, embodiment, and spiritual growth, what would it be?
I think coming back to your body every day, like getting your feet on the grass, putting your hand over the middle of your chest, which is where we say the heart space is, and just taking a few breaths in and out of that space. That is, I think, one of the easiest and most simple steps to coming back to yourself, embodying and connecting to yourself on this earth and yourself, higher and in the ether. And it becomes a practice that is bringing yourself back to you and who you truly are.
So, Nick, if people are curious and they want to know more, or they want to connect with you, how can they do that?
Great. I have a website, NicolaUnite.com.
Because Nick's last name is Unite.
Yes.
I love it. Is that actually really your last name?
It actually is. It's my married last name, and I decided to keep it because it's such a beautiful last name.
Nicola Unite.
Yeah. I know. I really find it such a synchronicity, Mel, that was the name that came, and it feels very fitting. Yeah.
So NicolaUnite.com.
And they can find my email there, and they can message me, and they can also make an appointment there. Yeah.
And you're on Instagram.
Yep.
Which is
the Unite Space.
The Unite Space.
Yeah.
At the Unite.space.
Right. Perfect.
Oh, Nick, thank you so much for coming on Hey Soul Sista again. I love it.
Thank you so much for having me, Mel.
And make sure if you're curious, reach out to Nick.
Thanks, Mel.